Hello students, welcome back to biology classes. In the previous class we have started with the chapter biological classification and we have discussed the introduction part where you got the definition for classification, biological classification and need for classification. So let us recall few points that we have discussed in the previous class. So what is a classification? You know that placing of organisms into separate groups based on some easily observable characters is called classification. Then biological classification, it is the scientific procedure of arranging organisms into groups and subgroups based on similarities and dissimilarities. Later, placing these groups into convenient categories is called as biological classification. Then what is the need for classification? As I told you, there are millions of living organisms exist on the earth. It is very difficult to identify and describe the organism. So this classification mainly helps to identify the organism and to know their taxonomic level. And it also helps to identify the organisms or to study the organisms of a past life. I have given all the examples for all these features. And it helps to know the organisms of other localities. This system of classification helps to build the evolutionary pathway or evolutionary relationship. It also helps to know the relationship between various groups of organisms, and it is very difficult to identify the names and the taxonomic level of each and every organism. That's why classification is very important. That is the need for classification that we have discussed in the previous class. Now, we will be starting with the domains of life. Domains of life. So, what is this domain? I will tell you. In the first chapter, Living World, you may be studying the taxonomic category or taxonomic hierarchy. So, in the taxonomic hierarchy, you know that each and every organism is initially placed under the kingdom, followed by division, then class, order, family, genus and species. So this is the taxonomic hierarchy, each and every organism having this taxonomic hierarchy. So every organism which will be included under the kingdom. So here kingdom is the highest level of taxonomic rank, but here domains refers to, domains are nothing but the super kingdom. So super kingdom. So before placing under the kingdom, the organisms are placed under one more kingdom, that is called as a super kingdom, and that super kingdom we can call it as the highest level of taxonomic rank. So this is the lowest rank species, then which is the highest level of taxonomic rank, that is the domain. So in this we will say it is a kingdom, but before this kingdom there is one more super kingdom, that is called as domains. So before placing the organisms under kingdom, division, etc., so the organisms initially included under the domains. So those domains we need to discuss. These are very important. And there are three major domains. There are three major domains. And these domains will be given by or proposed by a scientist named as Carl Woese in the year 1994. So the domains of life was given by Carl Woese in the year 1994, and he grouped or he classified all living organisms into three major domains. Then which are the three major domains? They are namely, the first one is called as archaea, which is also called as archaebacteria. Archaea or archaebacteria, and the second one is called as eubacteria, and the third one is called as eukarya. So the domains are very important in your exam point of view. So the three major domains of life are, the first one is called as archaea or also called as archaebacteria, and the second one is called as eubacteria, and third one is called as eukarya. Let us discuss these domains in detail. So the first one is called as archaea or archaebacteria. So the first one is called as archaebacteria. So this archaebacteria, these are the ancient and primitive prokaryotic organisms. It is very important. The archaebacteria, whatever the examples which comes under archaebacteria, these are ancient and they are primitive. So primitive refers to these are the first formed organisms and they are prokaryotic. So the term prokaryotic is very important. Here pro refers to primitive and karyon refers to nucleus. Let us recall the plant and animal diagrams. That is a diagram of a plant cell as well as animal cell that you have studied in your lower classes. For example, if you draw an animal cell in which you will write a nucleus like this. So this is the nuclear membrane which contains nucleoplasm and there is a nucleolus along with the genetic material that is called as a chromatin. So this type of nucleus, if a nucleus is enclosed by a nuclear membrane like this, such type of nucleus is called as a true nucleus. And this type of true nucleus is common in all eukaryotes. Then what is a prokaryote? Here prokaryote means I told you which contains a primitive nucleus. Primitive nucleus in the sense these organisms they do not contain a true nucleus like this. In these organisms we can't find such a true nucleus, so that we will say that the prokaryotes do not contain a true nucleus as well as a membrane bound cell organelles. You will come to know which are the membrane bound cell organelles. I will mention few. You know that within this animal cell you can find the presence of mitochondria, Golgi complex, endoplasmic reticulum. So all these are called as membrane bound cell organelles. All eukaryotes contains a true nucleus as well as membrane bound cell organelles. But in prokaryotes, let us draw one simple example. It is a bacteria. In case of bacteria, as it is a prokaryotic organism, here you will see the genetic material is like this. The genetic material is present within the cytoplasm and which is not enclosed by any nuclear membrane. Such nucleus is called as a false nucleus or primitive nucleus or incipient nucleus. So this can be called as incipient nucleus, false nucleus or primitive nucleus. Likewise, we can call it as a incipient nucleus. Remember this. So I think you are able to understand prokaryotes, they do not contain a true nucleus as well as membrane bound cell organelles. Whatever the examples which comes under archaebacteria, they are ancient, the oldest and primitive first form and prokaryotic organisms. Examples are methanogens, thermoacidophils and halophils. Methanogens, you will come to know about these methanogens in your second PUC because the methanogens play an important role in the production of methane. So when you study the gobar gas or biogas production, there methane is the main gas produced. For the production of methane, the methanogenic bacteria play an important role. Similarly, thermoacidophils, these bacteria, they can able to tolerate extreme high temperature as well as acidity. And halophils, they usually survive in saline conditions, that is salt-rich environment. Saline, halo or saline conditions, that is nothing but salt environment. So this is about archaebacteria. And the next one is called as eubacteria. This can be called as eubacteria or bacteria. And these are microscopic, unicellular. Even archaebacteria are also microscopic only. So eubacteria, these are microscopic unicellular prokaryotes. Even in these organisms also they do not contain a well-defined nucleus or a true nucleus along with membrane bound cell organelles. It is very important. They do not contain true nucleus and membrane bound cell organelles. So these are the group of organisms which are quite advanced than that of the archaebacteria. And examples of cyanobacteria, that is commonly called as a blue-green algae that we will be discussing later in this chapter, and common examples are bacteria. So this is about eubacteria, and the third group is called as eukarya. As I mentioned, eukarya refers to they contain true nucleus. These are the advanced group of eukaryotic organisms which contain true nucleus and membrane-bound cell organelles. All membrane-bound cell organelles present and nucleus is enclosed by a nuclear membrane. Such group of organisms are included in the group eukarya. Then examples for eukarya, they are protist. So we will come to know protist. Under the kingdom protista, you can give example amoeba, paramecium, etc. And fungi. So in the group fungi, mushrooms, penicillium, etc. we can able to give the example. And plants and animals. So all these are examples for eukarya. Let us recall once again. So there are three major domains, namely archaebacteria, eubacteria and eukarya. So archaebacteria, these are ancient primitive prokaryotes and these are the examples. And eubacteria, these are microscopic unicellular organisms, examples. And eukarya, these are well-advanced eukaryotic organisms with a well-defined nucleus and membrane-bound cell organelles. And examples are like this. So this is about the domains of life. Now we discuss the systems of classification. Systems of classification. As I told you, we need a proper system of classification. The proper system of classification is very, very essential to identify the organism or to classify the organism. That's why there are systems proposed by certain scientists. We'll see which are the systems of classification. So mainly there are three types of systems of classification, namely artificial system of classification. Second one, natural system of classification, and third one, phylogenetic system of classification. So these systems of classification are also very, very important. So the systems of classification are of three types: artificial system of classification, natural system of classification, and phylogenetic system of classification. So what is this artificial system of classification? I told you, while classifying we are considering the similarities and dissimilarities, and we are considering certain characteristics like that. So in this artificial system of classification, this system of classification is mainly based on one or few characters. You are considering only one or few characters in this artificial system of classification. Then which are the characters? For example, you can consider habit. That is morphology, how the organism looks like. So depending upon that you can classify the organism, depending upon the shape, depending upon the number. So we are considering one or few characters to classify the organism. If you consider one or few characters, such a system of classification is called as artificial system of classification. The best example for artificial system of classification is Aristotle's system of classification. The Aristotle system of classification. The first attempt of classification is made by Aristotle. Is a Greek philosopher known as Aristotle, and you know that Aristotle is the father of biology as well as zoology. So biology is mainly classified into two branches, botany and zoology. Botany and zoology. So these are the main branches of biology. There are various other branches also. I am talking about the major branches, botany and zoology. So Aristotle is considered as the father of biology as well as zoology. And find out the name of the father of botany. Name of the father of the botany you can able to find out. So Aristotle's system of classification is called artificial system of classification. We'll see why Aristotle's system is called as artificial. So what are the criteria he considered for classification? See, Aristotle, he classified all plants into three major groups. Aristotle classified all plants into three groups, namely herbs, shrubs, and trees. So he classified all plants into herbs, shrubs, and trees, and this classification is mainly based on the habit, morphology. He considered how the plant looks like. He considered that one character, and form, that is shape or appearance, and structure. So the structure, how the plant structure will be appearing, depending upon the habit, form, and structure. He classified all plants into herbs, shrubs, and trees. It is a plant classification. And he classified all animals into two major groups. One is called Anaima, and other one is called as Anaima. So he classified all animals into two major groups, Anaima and Anaima. It is mainly depending upon the presence or absence of red blood. So if the organisms contains red blood, he grouped all those organisms under the group Anaima. Anaima with red blood. The organisms with red blood are grouped under the Anaima. If the organisms contain red blood, all those organisms are included in Anaima. If they do not contain red blood, they are included in Anaima. Without red blood. So try to understand, if the organisms contain red blood, they are grouped under Anaima, that is with red blood. If they do not contain red blood, they are grouped under Anaima. Do you think that the organisms which do not contain red blood? Yes, there are organisms which do not contain red blood that we can able to study later. So this is one type of classification. And again, Aristotle classified this Anaima depending upon the mode of reproduction. Depending upon the mode of reproduction, he classified Anaima into two groups. They are called Ovipara and Vivipara. Ovipara and Vivipara. So Ovipara are the organisms which lay eggs. These are called as ova, refers to egg. The egg laying animals are included in this group, and Vivipara, in this group, they are birth giving animals. So egg laying animals are like birds, platypus, etc. And birth giving animals are like mammals. So this is the another classification given by Aristotle. So all these are very, very important. He has classified plants, animals like this. But why Aristotle's system of classification is called artificial? Because he considered only limited characters. When we consider one or few characters to classify the organism, it leads to a lot of confusion. Let's take one example. So here he classified the plants into herbs. Do you know, herbs can be seen on land and even they are present in water. So if they are present, they are called as aquatic plants, and if they are present on land, they are called as terrestrial plants. But all are included in one group. And one more example, trees. So he grouped depending upon their size, structure, everything. He classified them as trees. But do you know, certain trees produces flowers and certain trees will not produce trees. But the flowering as well as non-flowering trees all are included in one group. It leads to a lot of confusion. We cannot accept this type of classification. It is not at all satisfactory. Again, we'll take one more example. Say for example, whale and fish. You know, these both are present in water. Whale as well as fish both are present in water. As they are present in water and they can able to swim, depending upon that character, he placed in one group. But these two are entirely different because whale belong to the class Mammalia and fish belong to Pisces. So that classification you will study in the Animal Kingdom chapter. You would remember whale belongs to Mammalia group and fish belong to Pisces. But these two are included in one group. It is not acceptable. Again, we will take one more example like a butterfly, birds and bats. So all these three group of organisms are included in one group. But so why he has placed in one group? All these organisms, so butterfly, birds and bats, they have wings so that they can able to fly. So depending upon that wing character, he grouped these organisms into one group, but these are entirely different because butterfly belongs to class Insecta Birds belongs to aves and bats belongs to mammalia. So it is not acceptable. It leads to various confusions. That's why artificial systems are not satisfactory. So later, after this artificial system of classification, the natural system of classifications will be proposed. So in this natural system of classification, they will consider many number of characters. It is not based on one or few characters. Here they will consider many number of characters and it is mainly based on the natural affinities. The natural affinities are nothing but whatever the naturally occurring characters in the organism, based on that the organisms will be classified. So in this natural system of classification, they will consider morphological characters, internal anatomical characters, embryological characters. The study of embryos is called as embryology. So they will consider embryological characters, phytochemistry, plant chemistry, whatever the chemical components which are present in plants. So all those characters, ultrastructure, everything will be considered in this natural system of classification. So as it is considering many number of characters, so this system of classification is very well known, and one best example we can give for natural system of classification, it is Bentham and Hooker system of classification. Bentham and Hooker system of classification, it is one of the best example we can give for natural system of classification, because these two persons, Bentham and Hooker, they attempted to classify the organisms depending upon the naturally occurring characters, and this is accepted throughout the world. So it is accepted throughout the world, and as it is considered many number of characters, it is satisfactory. So this is about the natural system of classification. And the next group is called as phylogenetic system of classification. So what is a phylogeny? Phylogeny refers to the evolutionary relationship. Phylogeny refers to evolutionary relationship. Then what is this evolutionary relationship? I told you evolutionary relationship is nothing but depending upon the primitive and advanced organisms. So whatever the organisms which are first formed, they are called as primitive, and later formed organisms are called advanced. In the previous class I have given example. Bacteria are primitive because they are the first formed organisms, and we human beings are advanced because we are later formed organisms. So this primitive advanced group of organisms is called as evolutionary relationship, and this phylogenetic system of classification is mainly based on the primitive and advanced group of organisms. So how to know that the primitive and advanced? So example for phylogenetic system is Engler and Frankel system of classification. Engler and Frankel system of classification is called phylogenetic because they considered the evolutionary pathway as the main criteria for classification. That's why it is a phylogenetic in nature. So when you look at the Engler and Frankel system of classification, you will come to know which are the primitive organisms and which are the advanced group of organisms. So that is a phylogenetic system of classification. So this is about systems of classification. Here we have discussed the domains of life, very important, and systems of classification. Here you should remember artificial, natural and phylogenetic system of classification. Artificial, example for artificial system is Aristotle system, and how he classified that you should remember. An example for natural system, Bentham and Hooker system, and example for phylogenetic system is Engler and Frankel system. So this is about today's class, and we'll discuss a few objective questions related to in the last class and today's class. We'll see. So these objective questions I will send to your group. Later few objectives will be home assignment to you and few will be discussing by myself. So we'll see the objective questions. The first question, placing of organisms into separate groups based on some easily observable characters is called option A, grouping, option B, classification, option C, nomenclature, and option D, identification. So here it is a classification because placing of organisms into separate groups based on some easily observable characters is called classification. And second one, choose the incorrect statement regarding the need for classification. You just observe which are the correct statements regarding need for classification and which is incorrect. So option A, it helps to identify the organisms and to know the taxonomic level. Yes, it is one of the need. Option B, it helps to study the organisms of past life. Yes, of course. And option C, it does not help in building evolutionary pathway. I told you it helps to build the evolutionary pathway, but here they have mentioned doesn't, so it is wrong. And option D, helps to know relationship between organisms of various groups. Here option C is incorrect because it helps in building the evolutionary pathway. And third question, which of the following is not a domain of life? Option A, archaebacteria. Option B, eubacteria. Option C, probacteria. And option D, eukarya. You know, the major domains are archaebacteria, eubacteria and eukarya. Here option C, probacteria is wrong. Next, methanogens are primitive prokaryotes included in the domain. So methanogens are primitive organisms which are included in the domain archaebacteria. So your option A is archaebacteria, option B is eubacteria, option C eukarya, option D none of these. So methanogens are included in archaebacteria. And next question, prokaryotes are. What are these prokaryotes? See, option A, organisms in which true nucleus and membrane bone cell organelles are present. Option B, organisms in which true nucleus and membrane bone cell organelles are absent. And option C, which contain incipient nucleus. And option D, both B and C. So which is correct here? Prokaryotes are the organisms which do not contain true nucleus and membrane bound cell organelles. That is option B. And that incipient nucleus, the false nucleus is called as incipient nucleus. So option D is correct. Both D and C are correct. So these are certain questions I have discussed in this class. Remaining questions, you find out the answers. If you are not knowing, I will discuss in the next class.